You might think to yourself, oh, I hate coding or I hate visual design. But not so fast. We have not seen the next gen product building tools. It could be more fulfilling than your current role as a vanilla developer or a vanilla designer. Tools like Photoshop, Figma, and code editors are starting to integrate generative AI, and that is fundamentally changing how products are designed and developed. In a previous video, I talked about how AI is changing the types of interfaces that we build. User interfaces will never be the same now that we can interact with computers with natural language alone, and this is seen in products like ChatGPT. Generative AI will also change how we as product designers and developers build products. You can tell there's a lot of anxiety about this in the design community.
I'm not actually a huge fan of AI.
Yes, Skynet, not yet, right? How many people have heard about generative AI?
There's a fear that AI will devalue our work, make us irrelevant as designers and developers, take our job, and take away the types of activities that make us feel fulfilled and engaged. But I hope to paint a rosier picture for you, so let's separate the facts from the fear and talk about where exactly we're at today. You've probably heard of tools like Dream Studio, Midjourney, ChatGPT, Invoke AI. These are all generative AI tools that exist today, and they ushered in the generative AI movement. And these tools are general purpose, meaning that they're not specifically for product designers or developers, but we can start to get an idea on how they are augmenting product design right now. Midjourney is a good example of this. It's a text-to-image AI that is general. It will generate any type of image that you need it to, but with the right prompt, you can get it to generate mood boards and style guides for you that could really help you with branding a product. The thing that's lovely about it is that it generates many images at once, and you can quickly iterate through different images to find exactly the type of brand and style that you're looking for. There are so many possibilities that are called prompt engineering to get exactly what you need out of a tool like Midjourney. And so the next natural question is, can these text-to-image tools generate user interfaces? And for the general purpose tools I just described, the answer is resoundingly no. They might give you some vague user interface, but it's not going to have the detail that you're going to need. And the other problem is that these models output JPEG images. So when you import them into Figma, you're not going to have layers and components. It's just a JPEG image, and it's therefore not editable in Figma. However, that's not to say that there aren't specialty UX design AI models that are coming. And that brings us to product design tools that are integrating AI today. Figma and Photoshop are some good examples of how products are integrating generative AI to transform their existing workflows. To be clear, we're still in the early days. Figma's AI capabilities today are still modest and exist in third-party plugins mostly. Magician is an AI-powered plugin that's quite popular, and it has text-to-image and text-to-text generative AI capabilities, kind of like if you integrated Midjourney and ChatGPT directly into Figma. A tool like Magician allows designers to generate custom glyphs for their iconography, custom images for placeholders in their mockups, and also they can replace lorem ipsum text with sample text that's more relevant to the use case at hand. But we can't let what's happening today blind us from what's coming in the near future. AI was certainly a major theme at the recent Figma Config event in June of this year. Figma is rapidly experimenting with AI, and native AI-powered features are sure to come in the future. Figma recently acquired Diagram, which is a startup that has been working at the intersection of generative AI and design since 2018. And Diagram's flagship product, which hasn't been released yet, is called Genius, which is a text-to-UI AI assistant. And this text-to-AI is an innovation on what exists today because the AI model will be specifically trained on graphical user interfaces, and these designs will be editable in Figma. With Genius, designers will overcome that daunting blank canvas and generate some initial designs just to get the ball rolling. Once they have a design, they will be able to make many different versions of that design instantly so they can visualize different possibilities. And also, Genius will autocomplete workflows. So once the AI knows that you're building a login workflow, for example, it will autocomplete the rest of the screens. And Genius is not the only game in town. There are other text to UI tools out there like Galileo and Wizard, although it's important to note that none of these tools have been publicly released. Everything is still in beta. So who knows who will win out? My guess is that whoever executes fastest and best will get acquired by a large design tool like Figma or the Adobe Suite, because it's just too big of a lift to build these design tools from scratch and start to attract a user base. So text to UI is coming, and so is design to code. There are already Figma plugins, one called Anima, that takes your Figma designs and generates front-end code out of it instantly. There's also such a thing as sketch to code, where you can literally sketch a design on a piece of paper, upload an image of it, and an AI will generate HTML code out of that sketch. So to summarize, in the near future, we will have the ability to go from text to UI and from UI to code in a matter of minutes. It's needless to say that product building will never be the same, and this all has the potential of 100xing the efficiency and productivity of designers and developers. So the workflow of the future is going to be that you have some product idea, you have identified a user problem, you go into a next-gen product design tool like Figma and auto-generate these designs just from text, and you'll still have a designer in the loop to tweak the designs. And once you have the designs, you'll use a UI to code AI to convert it instantly into code, and you'll probably have a developer to tweak that code as well. And all of this together means that a single person can now design, implement, and deploy a product probably in a matter of minutes and hours versus a team working together over weeks and months. I think that this is going to cause an explosion in the number of startups and products that exist in the world today. So now the question is, how does this impact our day-to-day jobs as designers and developers? One can only speculate, but with an AI assistant like Genius, designers will probably spend less time developing individual layers and components and more time designing at the system level. This will give back time to the designer so that he or she can spend more time thinking deeply about the user problem and the solution to that problem rather than on monotonous, repetitive, painstaking design tasks. This will allow designers to build more sophisticated, complex systems. And this all sounds great, right? You might be wondering about what are the risks in all of this. It sounds too good to be true. And I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is that whenever something like this comes along and makes something faster and cheaper to produce, the people who were producing that thing can get laid off. So in the case for design and developers, as products become faster and cheaper to produce, employers may decide that they do not need as many designers and developers and cut part of their workforce. This is certainly a possibility in the short term. The good news is that technology, like AI especially, is very beneficial to the economy. Technology that makes things faster and cheaper to produce, in the long run, improves and increases the size of the economy, which creates new employment opportunities. In the year 1900, 41% of the US population was employed in agricultural activity, and today it is less than 2%. Just think of all the jobs that were created in the last 100 years, or even in the past 30 years. Web design didn't exist in the 1990s, and social media marketing did not exist in the early 2000s. And so, just as these previous waves of technology killed some jobs in the short term and created more jobs over the long term, so too will AI. The takeaway is that there will always be a place of employment for people who remain flexible and adaptable. AI is sure to create new employment opportunities that designers and developers can transition into. And I think you're okay if you've watched the video to this point, because as Ray Dalio says, if you're worried, you don't need to worry. And if you're not worried, you need to worry. So I'll leave off with an observation and one practical recommendation. Tools like Figma will eventually encompass the entire product building workflow from design through development. Already, design and developer tools are getting mashed together, as seen in new features like Figma's Dev Tool and Figma's VS Code plugin. To me, all this means that the role of the designer and the developer are coming closer together. I really think over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to continue to see these roles of designer and developer merge together and eventually birth a new role, which would be called something like product builder, an individual who can ideate something and take it from design through implementation and deployment. You might think that's a tall order, and you might think to yourself, oh, I hate coding or I hate visual design. But not so fast. We have not seen the next gen product building tools. It could be more fulfilling than your current role as a vanilla developer or a vanilla designer. So my recommendation is to track the emergence of these next gen building tools. Lean into new AI features. Challenge yourself to use Figma's dev tool. If you're a designer, learn the basics of front-end coding. And if you're a developer, learn the basics of design thinking and UX. It's never been a better time to understand the other side of things because you are upskilling yourself for the coming economy and the coming opportunities. For me, fear of AI boils down to two things. The first is that it might take my job. I might lose my job in the short term, and I'm okay with this because I'm confident that I can transition into something else. The second fear is that if AI is better, faster, cheaper than I am at everything eventually, then what does this leave me to do? Where will I feel engaged and fulfilled? What will I do? And this last concern is much more difficult to tackle. There's much more uncertainty. I'm not sure how everything plays out, but I have decided to stand on the side of thousands of years of history and believe that the future, as we go through this technological change, will be better than what we have today. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment with what your fears are about AI as a designer and developer. I think it helps to discuss these things. And also, if you're optimistic, what are you optimistic about? What do you look forward to in the future of AI-powered design and development tools? Thank you.